How to make roast pork with crackling. If you're like me, you can't go past that perfect roast pork with that amazing crispy crackling. I just love it. Now I'm going to show you everything that you need to know, all the tips, all the tricks, so you can make it perfectly too. Now, make sure the rack is in the center of the oven and then preheat it to 150 Celsius or 130 Celsius if you're using a fan-forced oven. The first thing you do is you get pork into a roasting pan or a little rim tray just like this one. For the rind to crackle, this is the important part. It's essential to get it really, really dry. So get yourself some paper towel and just pat it off like that. All the way around. And then the next important thing is that you check the scoring on the pork. Now, what I'm talking about are those little incisions that have been made into the rind. And you can see sometimes they'll be there and sometimes not. All you need to do is get a sharp knife, like this one, or a box cutter. Of course, you need a new one or a very clean one. And then what you're going to do is you're going to make these little incisions. Now, even if the roast does come pre-scored, you're probably still going to want to deepen those scores ever so slightly if you want that perfect crackling. Now, the more scores you make, the crispier the crackling. So don't be scared to cut them quite close to each other, just like this. The reason I love the box cutter is because it regulates how much of that blade is actually showing. And then what you're not going to do is cut all the way down into the meat. So aim for close parallel lines. Make sure you're cutting through the skin of the pork and into the fat, but don't cut deeper than that because you don't want to cut into the meat. To check to see that you're doing the right thing, all you need to do is just spread that fat ever so slightly and you'll see those incisions will open up. Next, it's a good idea to air dry the pork. All that means is you pop it back in the fridge uncovered and you let it rest and dry out. Overnight is good. If you can, at least 12 hours. You could do it all the way up to 48 hours too to get it really nice and dry. Now remember, that rind has got to be beautifully dry for perfect crackling. It's really important. Another thing that's essential for roast pork is salt. Rub the sea salt flakes all over the rind that you've scored and into those cuts. This isn't just to add flavour, the salt's also going to draw out some of the moisture and dry out the rind as it cooks. That's what's going to give you that super crispy crackling. So be generous, rub it everywhere. Now if you start by slow roasting your pork, the rind will dry out even more while the meat stays juicy and tender. Get your pork in the oven and roast it for 2 to 2.5 hours. The best way to test its doneness is with an instant read thermometer. So what you do is you get this baby and you stick it right into the thickest part of the roast and it should read 50 Celsius. Perfect. Once you've taken the pork out, turn the oven up to 250 degrees. You need it to be crazy hot for that rind to puff and crackle. You'll see there's quite a lot of fat that's rendered out of the pork while it's been roasting. So what I'm going to do is pick that up and I'm just going to pour it off. This will just stop it from splattering while it's cooking at that intense temperature. Okay, now that the oven's back at 250, you can pop it in for another 30 minutes and that's going to get that beautiful crispy skin that we all love so much. It's ready when that beautiful crispy crackling, and listen to it. Oh yes, you hear that beautiful crispy crackling and the internal temperature, of course, needs to be 60 degrees. Perfect. That is it. How good does that look? And it smells unbelievable too. The only thing left to do is transfer it over here onto a beautiful big cutting board and then you're going to let it rest for about 15 minutes before carving it. It's important to rest meat after roasting to keep it succulent and juicy. Then grab yourself a serrated carving knife and then you're going to cut straight through that beautiful crispy crackle. Perfectly juicy and succulent and delicious crispy crackling. Now, before you serve this up to your guests, of course, guess what? You deserve just a little something. So make sure you know that it's beautiful and crunchy before you take it through to your guests. Oh. For the full recipe, see the description below. For any of my other favourite recipes, click here. To help you master more cooking techniques, head to our masterclass playlist.